I was just found guilty of of a woman I never met at the age of 21. I managed to pull off going to death row and coming back with not only my humanity intact, but enhanced.
I want to reflect on your first day in your prison cell.
I started making faces. You, hope you fry Yarris, you scumbag. I didn't say anything. I was off the rails, man, with anger. I hated myself. I realized we're meant to love others, whether we like it or not. I had a guard come to me one night and he said, "Dead men do not speak in my unit. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir." Bam! Popped me right in the mouth. I had to fight one dude with my arm separated, my shoulder was separated, and I had to be devious. Man,
And they would put you in the cage to fight another man, and if you weren't to do that, guards would beat your ass for not.
The most profound moment of it all was my last day. DNA proves me innocent.
You say that death row was a gift.
It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Thank God I went through it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Development by David podcast with me, your host, David McIntosh. Today, I'm in London recording a very special episode with a very special guest, Nick Yarris. Nick Yarris wrongfully was incarcerated in 1981 for crimes he didn't commit. He spent 22 years on death row for a murder that he played no part in. Imagine the pain and the suffering that man has endured. Imagine the lessons that come out the other side of that. Today, he sat in front of me to dispel such a thing. Nick Yarris, welcome back to the Development by David podcast.
Thank you for inviting me in and cherishing me and sharing me with so many people. You're such a good friend to me in that way that I know that you've told a lot of people good things about me. So thank you, little brother. It's a wonderful thing to be back in London right now, especially.
For the new listeners of the show who may not recognize that you've been on before, 4 years ago, if not 5, I reached out to you after watching you on Joe Rogan share your story. And it was an episode that I had revisited 2 or 3 times over the course of that period of my life after losing my mum. And it was one of, if not the only, encouragement for me to start sharing my voice, because I learned through your story how important it is to have a voice, because often at times it can be taken away from you. So I started my podcast and I reached out to you asking for your guest appearance. And you said no at the time, but you followed me and you watched my journey and you learned what I was about. You learned about my story and you came back around and said, "David, let's make it happen." And we did. And we shared this an amazing experience together over Zoom during the pandemic. You were in Oregon, outside, dialing in from your phone. I was in my dad's council estate bedroom. And we shared a really impactful story. And at the time, I didn't have such a big audience, but the people that heard it. And now I have volume, variety, and veracity. And to welcome you back onto the show, to connect in person after the profound effect that you've had on my show, but also me as a character, this is important to me.
You speak different. I'm so proud of you. I mean this. At first, I didn't know what to say to you, so I didn't want to talk to you. Then I realized you were going through so much with losing your mom. It was killing me. It's like, I can't let this kid go through this shit. So I was going through a lot at that time, and you know it. But something in me heard you. Like, I knew you had to hear me because I had some notion, I don't know why, but I just wanted to see you have somebody come out and build you up. Like, nobody, like, without wanting anything. I just wanted to build you. I wanted you to see that there's old head out there like me who appreciate young guys that are striving without trying to be idiots. They're really sincere. So I'm glad that I helped you with that first podcast, because if you remember, I stopped speaking, didn't I? And I lost everything. I was living on a equestrian property at one point where we connected again, where I was taking care of the horses for the handicapped children. And I was watching in real time as you were growing your audience, and I was just so happy that I just did my part. You know what I mean?
Nick, when we last spoke, you said you release too much power when you talk too much. And you must heal by going silent so you can be powerful again. Where are you on that journey at the moment?
When I told you that, I spent the next year guiding a man by the name of Alex with cancer. So while I was quiet to the whole world, I was singularly helping one person. So I think a lot of us don't appreciate the fact that you dilute your power when you talk too much. You put your foes or enemies on notice of your dreams and their chances to hurt you. You also make yourself look like folly when it doesn't come true. And people start saying, oh, yeah, this is the same guy that said that was going to happen, that was going to happen. Even though you very sincerely believed that that thing was going to happen, it does make you look silly. So it's a real gift if you can go about it without being boastful, but mindful and sharing it as it needs to be shared. Don't put out too much of this because it will come back.
I learned that solitude is a state whereby you're isolated from the input of other minds. And I think we really underappreciate solitude. And you spent a lot of time in solitude, more than anyone I will ever know, because of your incarceration, wrongfully so. How do you see solitude complementing the character that you are today?
I'm grateful. There was two things that I was not allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to speak in my cell, and I wasn't allowed to get angry. If I got angry, they beat me with clubs. If I spoke in my cell, they held me down while a nurse stuck needles in me and drugged me out. So that became my greatest gift. I'm not afraid to be alone with myself because I'm not the one that does that to me, someone else does. And I like the fact that I can't absorb other people's conflict. Other human beings who are in conflict often project that. And when they do, you absorb that and it affects your life. If you can break away from that every once in a while, you'd be surprised how good it makes you feel not to be carrying Betty's crying, Johnny's sorrow. You know what I mean? My two friends have been fighting all week and I've been witnessing it, but you haven't because you stepped off. So you don't know any of that conflict, right? That physical barrier of not knowing that conflict saved you all that turmoil, didn't it? It's fascinating, right? So I recommend that anybody that has a chance, if you can go 1 week somewhere away from all your friends and the internet, you will detox. At first, you're going to freak out because you're not getting feedback from it, and you'll find yourself going back onto the apps and getting it all. But it takes a real effort. Look, I lived in the woods, didn't I? I lived in the woods for 2 solid years in Oregon, and I at times didn't even bother with the phone. Do you know what I mean? I was working 8-10 hours a day, taking care of horses and a cow named Curly, and wrote a children's book about it and all this stuff. And yeah, I faded from view because I needed to prove that I was okay with being in solitude.
This episode is brought to you by Man Alive by Mantra Men's Work. It's the ultimate 4-month coaching program for men who are ready to heal, then grow, then transform every area of their lives. Combining 2 life-changing retreats with 15 weeks of expert group and one-to-one coaching, this program will help you improve your mental health, emotional intelligence, and resilience while unlocking your true potential as a man. Whether you're looking to elevate your leadership skills, let go of limiting beliefs, or build towards a more fulfilling life, Man Alive provides the tools, community, and support to make real, lasting change. And you heard all about that in this episode. This is your chance to step up, take control, and create the life you've always wanted. Their expert coaches will guide you through a carefully crafted curriculum that addresses the unique challenges that men face in today's world, which we've explored. From developing emotional resilience to honing leadership skills, every aspect of the program is designed to help you become the best version of yourself. Join Man Alive to start your journey to a more fulfilled, purposeful life. All the links and information is in the bio. Contact David Miller at Mantra Men's Work. Before your solitude, what conflict did you face in your life?
Broken love, the one that bothers us all. The conflict that I had was that I was not healthy with my relationship. I was not in a good thing. Everything was broken, and I knew it. I learned a very valuable lesson this year about love. I thought I understood so much before this year. And then I realized we're meant to love others, whether we like it or not. It's part of our species design. But it's how we love that defines our own redemption. If you love too hard and you blind yourself and you put yourself in a situation, you're going to get abused. The person's going to walk on you. They're not going to see you respecting yourself. You're just capitulating in every argument. You give in, you're weak, you're milquetoast. You just do anything for them because you want to please them. That person doesn't even get the rewards in their brain that they actually want because they want someone not to just, and unless they're totally sadistic or narcissistic. But a healthy relationship is both parties want each other to be happy, but they don't idolize that thought over putting themselves down. And they don't make themselves nothing to please someone. And it's a fucking hard thing to do, man. So 2024, the 20th anniversary of my freedom, I found out that the best thing for me was a balance in how I don't try and just put myself out there. And you know, I really struggled with this. At one point, I chose to not date or be around females because I wanted to prove that I was okay mentally, that it wasn't me that was the problem. I know that takes a lot of courage. Guys can't stop trying to seek relationships. And what happens is they'll follow on with the same bad behaviors, not knowing that they haven't given themselves a time to break that thing that was there, right?
Here's something for you, Nick. That's not just a male characteristic. My last guest was an anthropologist from the University of Oxford, and she studies the evolution of love. And we're addicted to the chemicals that love gives us.
That's what I'm saying.
The beta endorphins, the endorphins, the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin.
This is what I've mastered.
And if we lose that love, if we're going through heartbreak, we go into withdrawal. It's almost mirroring opioid withdrawal.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you for feeling that way.
Yeah, but I was dealing with a dynamic most people can't appreciate from a male perspective, and that's being on the receiving end of domestic violence. Like, I don't own a mirror. I deliberately try not to look at my face. I have a scar on my face that offends me because I was standing, not even doing nothing, and got punched in the fucking face by my partner. And it really bothered me because I'm a trained martial arts expert. I could have just mopped the floor up. But I can't unleash the most precious thing I own is my anger. That's why I don't get angry. I really don't. I don't waste my time with that. But the psychological damage from that, part and parcel with, like your last guest was saying, was the withdrawal part was so crashingly hard when you're, in addition to going through the withdrawals of love, to be on the receiving end of a beating as a man. Women have all of the things set up so that they have someone there for them in crisis mode for women's shelters and women's support groups. But when a guy gets beaten down from a woman, and I've had it from 2 different women in my life, it's really fucking psychologically hard to explain to people, hey man, like, I didn't deserve it, but I didn't react. And I want you to know I didn't. And the first feeling a guy has is, I didn't hit her back. I always found myself immediately saying, yeah, but I didn't hit her back when I could have. And I'm so defensive of my brusque physical gifts of hurting people from prison. I'm sure no one, I didn't think anyone could believe that I would just let somebody beat me. You know what I mean?
I think that last sentiment is a sentiment of your distance traveled as a character, as a man. You're in your 60s now. And I can't imagine young Nick at the age of 19, when he was first incarcerated, would have both the vernacular to come up with an answer like that, but also the character and values to also back that up. Can we go back to young Nick and understand what environmentally that was like for you, but also internally what young Nick was like? This episode is brought to you by my friends at Finiston Clothing, who are on a mission to create sustainable, hard-wearing workwear that is stylish and versatile. I'm wearing it today. Their goal is to use their profits from their business to help the community they find themselves in. Based in Scotland and in Glasgow, Finiston wants to be a brand that leads by example, to be as sustainable as possible, to care for their staff and their community, and give back to society and the broader planet. Profits from each garment, from each collection, just like this, will go towards promoting and aiding mental, physical and environmental health in Scotland and beyond. They're completely transparent about the costs that are involved in making such garments, where those profits go, and how they promote causes that they believe in. Finiston aims to be the antithesis of fast fashion. Their clothes are built to last, built for purpose, and most importantly, built for the future. Every single time someone buys a Finiston product, money will go towards doing something good. Head along to their shop, Finiston, that's in the West End of Glasgow and in Shillings. Thanks for sponsoring this episode.
The worst part of young Nick was that I gravitated towards violence, and the kids in the neighborhood just called me psycho because I was invariably laughing out loud while I fought. It's crazy. Because I'm a survivor of sexual assault with violence where a man beat my head in.
At the age of 7?
Yeah. I developed a sinister ability to fight without anger. I would inflict pain on myself to get myself in the effort of fighting, and then go out and attack people. Just for I know it's really hard, just for the sport of it. And I would pick out, and I had a death wish, I would pick out guys in the neighborhood could clearly mop up the room with a lot of people and fight them. Like, I'm fighting guys that were like, men, but I was 17 and I'm out of my head on drugs and I don't want to listen.
How did that lead to the events of 1981?
So at the age of 20, I'm in a stolen car and I get pulled over in the city of Chester, Pennsylvania by a police officer, and I end up being falsely accused by him of taking his gun off of him, pointing the gun between his eyes, and then he heroically took the gun off me and then subdued me, but the gun discharged, and he heroically saved his own life. That was the story he told. So being a drug addict and a car thief, I had no credibility. And all my life of destroying any relationships with anybody, made everybody believe whatever, like, who cared? They were just glad to get me off the streets. Do you know what I mean?
They took advantage of your current state. I believe you were in a mental asylum or in and out of mental asylums during that period of your life. You referenced broken love recently, but I think you had broken your own love with perhaps yourself and maybe your family in the 1980s.
David, I had zero self-worth. I used to really, literally run away from Philadelphia so I could go pretend to be someone else as a teenager. In my neighborhood, I was Nick Yarris, and everybody locked their door and they fled because I would break your window or beat your son up. Or I was off the rails, man, with anger. I hated myself. And it's fascinating. I tried to physically run from my life. I went to Miami twice. I went to Los Angeles, 3,000 miles from home, 17 years old, 1978. Why? I hated being trapped in my life. I hated that feeling. I have to be me. That's what young people hate. Right now in England, especially in Scotland and Wales, right now, listening to us talk, they hate being them. But they don't understand yet the gift that they are. And that these moments are actually going to make them better than the people who are making them feel like shit. It's the hardest thing to realize you're a gift. David, long before your mom was born and your dad was born, let's go back 5 generations. 4,000 people had to be born for you to be born.
That's a gift.
That means you were the gift and the fruition of 4,000 lives just for you to be born. And it goes back deeper than that. And they fought through plagues and the wars and everything, right? Oh, I wish we would have somehow a David that would fucking carry our genes forward and we're not wasting our time here on this earth. That's what these kids aren't being told. The gift that they are, man. Instead, I see this thing on the internet where everything is outward that used to be inward. When I was growing up, you would have to strain your ear to listen to the older kids' conversations and understand what their opinions were because you weren't privy. You weren't allowed to hang out with them. You get it? And kids kept a journal, and little girls had diaries, and they got validation from their own thoughts. Now it's on the internet and they're being rejected and put down. Now everyone's conversation is outwards and no one guards their thoughts. No one. David, do you ever have a friend of yours say, I don't like to talk about that? No one stops from talking about anything anymore. Why? We've been infected with a disease called the internet. We call it social media, but it's the least social thing in so many ways, right? What it is, and I see it because I had this gift of being on death row for 23 years, and I watched society develop. We're at a stage where we believe we're at technologically the epitome of our height of understanding, right? And yet 10 years ago, we felt the same way. And 20 years ago, we felt the same way. And 30 years ago, in order to have a telephone, you had to have a pocketbook with a giant battery, and you could use 20 calls a month. Do you understand? We at that time thought we were at the epitome of our technology, right? But we can't see backwards. And we can't recognize how stupid we are to think some of the things that we're doing is right.
Life is like moving backwards on a train. It only reveals itself once you've went past. But if I look at your journey, because there was no advent of technology like CCTV cameras or surveillance cameras, that is what ultimately led to your wrongful incarceration. There was no evidence to support that you were the murderer and rapist of the poor woman that lost her life. Yet because of the lack of technology, unlike we have now, you were incarcerated wrongfully.
And it's weird, pinpoint accurate how you state it, because the killer had B positive blood type, and our technology in the early 80s was serology, blood typing. He had the same blood type as me.
And that was the only...
It's like, what blood type are you?
O positive?
Okay, I'm B positive. So if you were accused of a crime and the murderer had O positive, you would be immediately in the group of possible suspects, whereas I would be immediately removed. And it's because I was the very first man in America to seek DNA testing. It was so hard for me. No one else on death row had filed an effort to get DNA testing done. And I knew I was up against a huge challenge. No one ever broke the door open, and they didn't want someone who had escaped from death row to be that guy.
There are many new listeners, Nick, to your story. And yes, they might go back in time and listen to that episode, but can we talk about the events leading up to the DNA testing? We need to dispel the whole scenario. Tell me about the day in court where you got the death penalty.
July 1st, 1982, Delaware County Courthouse. The jury's about to find me guilty, and the courthouse gets struck by a giant bolt of lightning. Boom. All the power goes out. You can hear people breathing. There's no electricity. Everything's still. the sheriffs jumped up out of their chairs and tried to take control of the situation by pulling guns out like I was orchestrating with God in my own escape. The day I got sentenced to death was so profound to me, I was the only one in the courtroom willing to look anybody in the eye. And everybody I looked in the eye put their head down. And yet I was just found guilty of rape, murder, and kidnapping of a woman I never met at the age of 21. I should have had my head down as the guilty party. But God told me not to do that. When I was taken upstairs, when the power was out, they put me in this giant room. And I looked at everybody in the courtroom below, in a courtyard below me. All these people milling about. No sound. It was eerie to hear the silence. And they looked up and saw me. They started making faces. Fuck you. Hope you fry yours, you scumbag. I didn't say anything. But I swear to God, I heard this voice just as clear as day say, look them in the eye. So they take me in the courtroom. The judge hammers me 30 to 60 years plus the death penalty. The jury gives me the death penalty. He adds 60 years to it. So I start talking to him. I said, Your Honor, you know and I know I didn't commit this crime. I said, you want to know why? Look at you. You can't even look me in the face. You're about to sentence me to die. You can't even look me in the eye. He said, is that all you got to say? I know. I said, you can go to hell. And I had the courage. I didn't weep. I didn't do it, David. Why should I be broken? And that's what the message was. See, this is the craziest thing. Had that bolt of lightning not hit the courthouse, I wouldn't have thought this way. I was so angry that I didn't understand a lot of the language that was being used. I was embarrassed by my education. And then, boom, the lights go out. The power just seemed to be taken from them in that moment. Not just electrical, all of their power.
I want to reflect on your first day in your prison cell. We spoke about today's social media, whereby people are relying on the validation from others online. How they are perceived online is how they perceive themselves. And in this instance, in 1981, you were convicted and labelled, much like people do on social media, as a rapist, murderer, who would probably shout from the cells that you are such thing. That was your reputation. Even though deep inside you knew you weren't those things. You were young Nick Yarris, innocent, and should be a free man. How did you stop in those early moments on day one? How did you stop the opinions and labeling of others from ever infiltrating the reputation you had with yourself?
It's not possible.
You can't separate that story that you tell yourself about yourself.
It's not possible to do that on the first day.
How did you feel?
On my first day of being incarcerated or my first day being under a death sentence? Which one do you want to know?
Both.
First day I was out of it. I was a drug addict and I was stoned out of my mind and I was recovering. Took me weeks to get my shit together to feel the pain of what was coming down the pipe. My first day on actual death row, I got drug off a bus by 4 guards wearing helmets and clubs. And they weren't nice about it. And they lined me up against the wall. And a lieutenant walked up and he said, dead men do not speak in my unit. Do you understand me? He said, you're dead. Your mother, your father, everyone you knew is dead. Therefore, dead men do not speak in my unit. Do you understand me? Like an idiot. What did I do? Yes, sir. Bam. Popped me right in the mouth with the back of his hand. And he turned to his boys and said 30 seconds. Knew what that meant, right? He fed me to those guards for 30 seconds. Oak sticks. It's about 3 feet of oak with a leather handle so that it doesn't fly out of your hand, and they double hand it. And they're whipping on your legs, all the back of your legs, all the back of your buttocks, all your back. Don't leave no facial marks. But then I turned and fucked up, and they hit me in the head. So they throw me in a cell. I'm in the cell now, David, and I'm thinking, this is insane. They just told me I can't even speak in my cell. I can't even get up off the floor. The nurse comes by. Yarris, AM 6841. Can you stand up? I was like, oh, shit. So I wasn't going to talk. I deliberately decided I was going to make her look at me by not talking. You know what I mean? She was prepared for that. She said, you've been put into B block, and the following procedures are to be observed for you to see medical staff. You fill out a DC 136 request form asking to see a medical personnel, and you write out as best you can what your ailments are or your needs are. Do you understand? I wouldn't answer. The guard stepped up, knew the routine, and he said, inmate makes no reply. Kept calling me an inmate. About the fourth question in, she still didn't look at me, and they walked off together, and I realized I was being left there like a piece of meat. My face was bleeding. They had done a good job on me, and she's telling me how to fucking fill out a piece of paper to see a medical professional. I'm thinking, this is going to be hard. So that was my first day on death row.
I remember you facing the wrath of a beatdown because you broke your silence and sang happy birthday to yourself.
22nd birthday.
How does it feel to have the one day that's meant to be all yours and denoted to the celebration of your birth be tarnished by the beatdown of another man because you sang happy birthday to yourself?
I know this is crazy, and before we sat down and talked, I told you I have a remarkable ability to take good from anything. So every year after that, instead of stupidly singing happy birthday, I figured out a way to buy my parents a gift for giving me my life. When I was in prison, I hustled. I sold educational courses to men so that they can get their sentences cut. I sold legal work so men could get their prison death sentences removed. I sold donuts. I did everything. I saved up money every year because they beat me on my 22nd birthday. I sent my parents, like, I bought my mom a little necklace out of a magazine. You know, back then they had mail order catalog system. So off my prison book money, I would buy my mom a nice little necklace or buy my dad a nice little thing. I showed them respect for the gift that they gave me. That's why I don't have birthday parties. You know, it's funny. I never, ever organized a birthday party for myself in my life. I don't celebrate my birthday like that. Every year of my life, I give my birthday to someone else. That's what you should do. I thought about this. This way there, who can disappoint me by not showing up to a party I don't hold? Who can disappoint me with a gift that I don't expect because I'm out there giving my birthday away? I mastered this one. Look, you can't break my heart with your bullshit because I'm doing it differently. I'm living my life my way, and my way is I don't want a cake and candles and a bunch of gifts stacked on a table celebrating my stupid fucking ego when I can be out doing something really cool on my birthday for somebody I love. And it doesn't matter if I'm cutting their fucking lawn or just being their friend, whatever. But don't look for me to have some blowout party on my birthday ever.
I love that act of service is a gift to yourself.
It's wonderful.
When I think about your story, and a very pertinent pivot in your sentence was when a generous guard, quote unquote generous guard, gave you a stack of books.
Yeah, man.
So you could read and write and subsequently become both the kindest and most dangerous man in the prison by helping those on death row.
It's true, David. I'll tell you what. The most profound moment of it all was my last day. DNA proves me innocent. After 8,057 days of solitary confinement, both guards and inmates wept in front of me as I walked by them. Profound. Murderers who had killed up to 10 fucking people stood in their door with tears. Yeah, Nicky, You're getting out of here. Fucking love you, boy. Guards called me by my first name finally. Broke them. Man, the worst part was being nice to the guards. They was like, what the fuck? We broke your face, man. We stomped you out. We did all kind of sick to you. Why ain't you angry? Like, you had to do what you had to do, bro. Everybody has to play their part.
Can you tell me some of the heinous things that you went through?
2 guards taught me about Christianity by beating me, by making a joke about it. So it was real hard to face them on my last day, knowing that they didn't realize something. I don't give a fuck if you put a mask on. You wear the same boots to work every day, you idiot. I know who you are.
What about the dog fights?
When they attack you, they put helmets on and disguise themselves. But they wear the same boots to work every day. I know who you are. I knew for years the ones that broke my face. I never went after them. I could have got them back. Why? Just knowing that I knew who you were was enough for me. When you pretended to be that nice guard, you offered me an extra piece of food. I said no for my own pride. I said, no, thank you, sir. And I was very sincerely nice to them. The one I felt bad for them. Anybody that had to beat me and torture me for something I didn't do, I felt bad for them. They got in the wrong. And the crazy thing is, they were committing the wrong on me, and I was being better than them. Because if I knew I was committing the same wrong that they were, I would be horrified, yet some of them wouldn't. They wouldn't even be bothered by it. They'd be says, I heard him. Fuck it, I don't care how many innocent dudes are in here. I'm having my fun.
Nick, one thing I have truly learned from you, and learned in the sense of not just absorb the information, but have detailed it into my everyday practice, is becoming a better vocalist and speaker.
I told you speak so much better now.
And I learned that from you. And sorry to interrupt, Nick, but if people were to hear your story on paper and then hear your voice, that's an optical illusion or an auditory illusion. They wouldn't think someone who had been on death row for decades would have the vernacular and composure that you do. And you taught me that your voice, your words are the most powerful tool. And the importance of that really shone onto me when you taught me about your story of crafting the most eloquent death row speech. So when the guards looked at you in the eyes, when they were about to take your life, you could leave with pride.
That's right.
And thankfully, because you're here right now, that never had to take place. But that one sentence, that one story, that one paragraph, that one spiel, that one testimony that you were going to leave your life with had been crafted over months, if not years, of pain that these guards put you through. How could you garner so much pride in yourself knowing that these guys had put you through what you had went through? How could you muster up the words to defend yourself and ultimately the most devastating moment of your life?
It came down to a visit with my parents. My parents used to have to travel 275 miles from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, way up into the mountains of Pennsylvania to Huntington, it was called. And at one point during a visit right near Christmas on my second or third year there, my father waited until my mother stepped outside to go and use the ladies' facilities to tell me something. And I knew he had something built up. And he looked at me, he said, I can't do anything for you. I said, what do you mean, Pop? I'm okay. He said, no. I got 6 kids. I work 2 jobs. I don't know anybody. I don't have much. I can't do anything for you. You got to get yourself out of here. When your mother comes in from using the toilet, don't say a fucking word. This is a man-to-man conversation, you understand me? I'll do what I got to do. And then ironically, they might have been I don't know. Ironically, he at one point goes out to the snack machines And my mom was sitting there across from me. And she said, "What's that mark on your face?" And the week before, they had put me in the cage for the first time. And I fucked this Spanish kid up. But he got me around the ear with like a scratch.
Can you let the listener know what the cage is?
In the early 80s, when they built Deathrow, they segregated our housing and our exercise from the population of general population. So they built a series of 10-foot by 20-foot wide cages that were very fine wire mesh, and they had razor wire on the top with locking doors so that you would be put individually in that cage for exercise. But if they felt like they wanted to, they would put you in two together for the purpose of making you fight so they could bet on you.
Was this in constitution to what was happening in the racial disparities in America at the time?
It was more about playing with the sickos. It was crazy. So, you know, on television, you see that guy that gets arrested for like putting someone in an oven and baking them or chopping their head off and doing all those sick things. Well, when you have a huge group of them, back then the guards wanted to play with them. So one of the ways that they decided it was make them fight. Gladiator. So unfortunately, I'm 6'2", 220 pounds, and not a lot of the guys on death row that were white could fight. And the guards wanted to make money. So they taught me. Gave me the Israeli Defense Manual handbook, the Brazilian Special Forces manuals taught me. They even brought like they brought me so many different things to learn and use. There's one guard especially.
And they would put you in the cage to fight another man, and if you weren't to do that, guards would beat your ass for not.
Oh, yeah. I had a guard come to me one night and he was pleading. He's like, "Nick, I lost $800, man. I bet against you. If you don't get that money back from me, I'm going to kill you. I don't give a fuck. I'll come in that cell with my boys and I'll stomp your fucking head and you're getting that money back from me. You're going in that cage tomorrow and you're fucking winning." He said, "I don't give a fuck what you have to do. You're going in there and you're getting my money back." So what did I do, David? And the guy that put me in, oh my God.
2 men in, 1 man out.
It's even worse. Sometimes they put me in there and I knew I was going to win, so I just fucked people up, man.
So going back to speaking to your mum and she noticed that scar.
She says to me, "Nicky, what are you doing in here fighting with these men?" She said, "I didn't pray for that." She said, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to come home to me as someone worthy of my prayers and all these tears. She said, "If you're going to spend your time in here fighting with these men, what am I doing out here writing letters to all these people saying my son's innocent and you're going to kill somebody?" So she said, "Why are you fighting?" I said, "I have no choice." She said, "Look at me. You always have a choice." She said, "What happens if you don't fight?" I said, "You don't want to know." She goes, "Well, when you get to the point when you can handle that, that's when you stop." And fucking went on. I didn't believe I would, but at one point I refused to fight again, and they fucking beat the shit out of me. Hard too, man. I've been stabbed on fucking at least 5 different occasions. I've had serious concussions. I had to fight one dude with my arm separated, my shoulder was separated, and I had to be devious. Man, it's the legs, though, that they really got me on. They beat you on your legs because a lot of times they could get away with that, you know what I mean? So you'd be walking down the block and they just out of nowhere hit you with a club. Pow! And inflict all that damage on you. And then I turned the game on them. Want to know how I did it? I figured out that you get less of a beating if you can make them laugh halfway through it. David, this is the craziest thing. At one point, guards used to be like wanting to hang out with me in front of my cell because they were so fascinated by me or so entertained by me. They would literally request to come and be around me. And I made the whole block light up with laughter after a minute. When they stopped that no talking rule, I changed the game. I literally unleashed the most hilarious gallows humor you can imagine. I had fucking B block rocking. When I went down the block, most of the guys would be yelling at me in taunts and laughter. It's my boy Wigger Nick. What's up, Mr. Wigger? And I'd be like, oh my God, they let you out of your sarcophagus? What's that mean? Yeah, man.
Do you know who has more power than the king? The jester.
That's true. So
I
learned to be Deathrow's jester so well. When I started going out for court, and a lot of the guards realized when I was having all this attention from the news media, and I was the first guy asking for DNA, a lot of them thought, shit, this guy's actually innocent. And it started bugging some of them, and the other ones just loved me. It was funny, like I had my little protector. So Ezekiel Ruiz, if you're still alive, I fucking love your Spanish ass. Thank you, boy. So Zeke was so cool that he made every effort to let me be funny. Do you understand how gracious that is when someone's letting you get your humor on? You know what I mean? It's like Jimmy Carr letting you tell jokes. He's like really stepping back and giving you the platform, right? But that's how Zeke was. And oh my God, I used to torment the guards. I used to have so much fun with laughter that they left, like, invariably, they left me alone, didn't they? And I went off on my little journey reading books. I had a guard come to me one time and literally he said, I got a 17-year-old son and he's been studying, and then asked me all these questions and took notes and went home and helped his son with his homework. Yeah. They didn't have the internet back in the 80s, but they had Nick Yarris with a fucking stack of books, right? But that was a really cool thing because his name was House and he was a really cool guard. But he came to me and he was like, you've been reading this about Greek mythology? And I said, yes. He said, well, can you tell me? And he started asking me all these things. I said, well, I actually got a book. So we went through the book together and I gave him all this help. And he was like, I'm going to tell my son this. And it really helped. And so that was a dangerous thing though, David. You want to know why? That man could have gotten himself killed trusting someone to be a human being that wasn't a human. And I actually cautioned him on it. I felt bad later. I was such a nice person in there. I tried to tell him, hey, man, don't come up to my window like that again and make your neck all vulnerable and be all soft like that, because I could have killed you. And he was like, why would you say that? And I said, I'm just telling you the next fucker is not going to be nice. Because I've seen that, you know? Especially during the riot, all the officers that were not really aggressive invariably were the ones that had the most damage done to them. The one that got his eye put out or was stabbed multiple times was actually a really cool guard, and I liked him. And it's a shame that it was like, it's so wrong. The nicest guard in the block gets the worst beating just because he didn't have enough sinister in him to be fearful of his back. Do you know what I mean? Because he didn't do wrong to people.
Like, I want to apologize for making you revisit some of those traumas.
Oh, no, don't do that. I
So
love it.
I know, because you say that Deathrow was a gift.
It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Thank God I went through it.
It's like a fond memory to you.
No, I come to realize the reason that they're making a play about me with Adrien Brody starring as me is because I managed to pull off going to Deathrow and coming back with not only my humanity intact, but enhanced. Think about that statement. I
No,
became a better human being for going to death row.
that's like winning the lottery twice. You leaving death row was such a lottery for humanity, but you coming out a better human is like winning the lottery again.
And eating cake at the lottery headquarters. Like you're having your day. It's fucking fascinating to me. When I was presented with the opportunity to have Adrien Brody play me on stage in London, it was a dreamlike moment to come true for me. So much so, I didn't boast one bit or anything. I went and told the most important person in my life that very day that they meant more to me than the play. I really want to be that, man. I want to be that sincere in my life that I don't lose this chance. I know in the days that this is being released, I'll be in every newspaper in England, and everybody's going to know about the play with Adrien. What they don't know, though, is that I really, and this is unique, I am given a chance to fulfill every one of my favorite books, heroes, Odyssey come true. He finds the beautiful girl, he gets on the horse, and he rides off into the sunset. And that's what I'm doing, David. I'm going to relaunch my speaking career and help with the shit levels of suicide that are happening in this country. I'm embarrassed that there aren't more people out there doing speakings about suicide. And I have a brand new documentary I'm making with Alex called Why Don't You Just Kill Yourself? The Alex Rotoli answer for why you don't kill yourself. And I want to spend the next 3 years in the United Kingdom, especially, getting my Scottish, Welsh, English, whatever nationality you were before you landed in those 4 countries, in Ireland especially, whatever your issues are, don't kill yourself because you're a gift. And I'll prove it to you. And I'll bring you back. So that's my goal. So I want to help because the United Kingdom especially is facing its highest rate of suicide in 20 years. Crazy.
The biggest threat to men in the UK is ourselves, unfortunately.
I think that's the wrong attitude. I'm
It
gonna
is.
tell you.
It
No,
is.
I'm gonna tell you why. And you shouldn't repeat it, because it gives power to it. I think what it is, we haven't come up with new ways yet to realize how we have to get children, especially, to stop feeling worthless. New ways always will come up. It's like the kid, I just saw him in some village, man, where this kid invents all this endless energy and good and clean water or whatever because he thought of something new. So we have to fucking find some new way to get through to people under the age of 25 not to kill themselves.
I love that. And I'm choking up, getting emotional here. You speak about you portraying and excelling in the superhero's odyssey. Here's a quote that I love, and it illuminates your life. It illuminates mine, even though we have wavering forms of trauma. And it's when a young mind is animated. Actually, let me say the whole quote because in its whole essence, it's beautiful. Habits of a vigorous mind are contended with experiencing difficulty. When a young mind is animated by scenes that engage the heart, traits that would otherwise lay dormant wake into life and form the character of the superhero. That was Abigail Adams. When a young mind is animated by scenes that engage the heart, traits that would otherwise lay dormant wake into life and form the character of a superhero. And that's almost a synonym to Carl Jung, I believe, when he said, to live is to suffer, to survive is to attach meaning to the suffering.
Vladimir Nabokov explained how synthesias work. Synthesias and synthesiism is the ability to harness and feel pain and energy of others, so much so You're attuned to their thoughts. Do you ever get so close to someone you start having that same thought as them and you say it and then they look at it? I was thinking the same thing. We are species, David. We have a gift. Only through pain can you become beautiful. I know. I'm telling you the truth. It was profoundly real to me. A play in London is being made about my worst fucking days. Imagine, David, imagine this. Your worst day can be art. And not only art, it can be used to heal millions of people around the world. Would you still go through the pain?
Every time.
Well, that's what I'm being tasked with. I come to the conclusion, I know it's fucking crazy. I've never said it before 2024. I go through it all again if I could end up here now. I go through every beat. That little boy could get raped again. Baby could die in my arms, all of it. If I could come back right now and be okay and have all this gift given to me now, yeah, I'd do it again. Just for the world. That's a fucking superhero. Don't quit on that. Look at me. I want you to say the same thing. Losing mom and everything. Because here you are now. And she'd be so fucking proud of you. Your mother is like my mother, the inspiration of good. So as such, she had to go and pay her pace so you could do this. That's why I'm fucking proud of you. Don't go back.
What was your mother's name?
Harriet Jane.
Harriet Jane is sitting beside you, and my mum Pauline is sitting here watching their two boys bond over the hardest moments of their life.
Yeah.
And doing it on camera for other people. And you taught me this 4 years ago, mate.
I know. I love the fact that, David, you know, this is crazy. You're as good of me as I've been of being me. I am paying you a compliment. You've absorbed a whole lot from me, man. I didn't pay attention until now. And when I realized through this interview, what you've done is so composed. People don't know this. David, you are showing real maturity. You are showing a gift of why people have now reaching and listening. That's why you have your first 1 million views on YouTube. Well done. Because you fucking listened. I didn't really realize how much you've dedicated to this till today. I'm blown away. It's an honor to do this. And I say, I think my last interview is going to be yours, but it's not going to be today. So when I'm done with my career in like 3 to 5 years, I want to wrap it up here. Yo, deal? That'll put us about 10 years on from where we first started. Okay, we started 5 years ago, and we'll finish it. I'll do that for you, because this is the way I see it. I have to do this in a cycle. I have a brain injury. I'm fighting against all the injuries from being in prison. I have 3 to 5 years to really put my effort out there while Caroline gets her platform up. And I want her to have her own efforts to be a career-driven person and have all of those highlights without me overshadowing it. So I'm stepping off. No more social media. Think about this, David. Do you know anybody else that says, I would love to be able to disappear, and then someone says, oh man, I saw Nick Yarris at the supermarket. What? He's still around? Damn, I ain't seen or heard anything of him for years. That's my dream. That's my literal dream, that people feel offended by that. No one even knows they are there. Please, yes, let me have that segue away from all of this that I've done for 20 years or more. And I want to go have a normal life, like I want to go write my TV series and my little books and stuff. but no more speaking, no more stage, no more social media. I want to take control of my personal life at the end and just go away. I don't want to be 85 years old, Mick Jagger on stage. Do you know what I mean?
But you've used your pain for now as purpose. And you've paid such a great compliment to me about my growth. And I see myself like a spot, like an acne spot, right? It's red, it's inflamed, it's visible, it's painful. But only because it is so, because it's so visceral, do you know to pop it. And I feel like that is me right now in this moment, right?
Wow.
Let me explain what I mean by that. Is that I learned from you that my pain is my purpose. And I've put the reps in on the podcast. I've really shared my story and some of the most intricate trappings of what makes me me and what makes the guests them in order for others to learn and grow. And for every one of me that you compliment, I'm just the visible one. There's 1,000, if not 10,000 more miniature Davids, not to be condescending, but other Davids who have found privilege in their pain because of your story, Nick, and have gone to do better things. You just can't see them because they're not inflamed red spots in society. They're very malignant, invisible people who have improved their life because of you, Nick. So as much as you're paying me a compliment, you're paying the compliment to 1,000 more. And I really mean that.
I appreciate that. And I'm going to just show you what happens. And this is every day. So, I got this message, and it's invariably every other day. Nick, I just wanted to say that I've only just heard your story not even an hour ago, and you are truly one of the most gifted and amazing individuals I had the pleasure of hearing about. Your words that you were articulating beautifully on your experiences and how you've learned to overcome them and be one of the most kind-hearted people I know is just simply astounding. You give me and all those people around you just that much more of a reason to live for ourselves and for the good of others. Thank you for everything you've been able to teach me moving forward. I look forward to reading your books. Thank you, your brother. So, I know. And then there's the one like this one. I hope you're doing well. I was not doing well in my life. And then I saw you on Joe Rogan. I heard a clip of you and I started wondering, could I be okay? Your friend, George. I can't lose this now. I'm self-aware of my abilities to have reached people, so I have to stay dutiful to it now. I couldn't be a cock even if I wanted to, man. I couldn't let myself down. I made a lot of mistakes getting to this point. I know that. And I fucked up. I did. But I'm okay with that because I paid for them. Paid for every one of them. And going forward, I have a really good chance to affect a lot of lives, David. There's a lot of you in all of these young men that I see. They just need someone to give them a play. Like you said at the very beginning, I know I don't have any followers and there's not much, to my platform, but I really want to try this. I hope more people listen to you, brother. I really do.
Nick, if there is a David, a young Nick, or a young person going through the darkest of dark, where they see no light at the end of the tunnel, there's no hope, there's no direction, there's no lighthouse navigating their next step. Given that you have perhaps faced the most intense version of that feeling, being on death row, knowing that your life has an expiry date, what advice do you have for them as someone that has seen the end of their own?
Don't live your whole life now. The young person's living his whole life today. Step back. Realize it took a whole lot for you to get right here, and there's a whole lot more to go. But if you try and live your whole life today, you're going to blow it. And this is what a lot of young people don't stop doing. They can't give themselves 5 minutes break from it. The other thing is this. What kind of gift are you, man? Do you even feel like a gift? Do you even know who brought you here? Not just your parents, their parents and parents and parents. Do you even know? Has anyone ever told you you're a gift? Do you know? I probably guess about 80% of the people listening to this have never heard someone say, wow, you're an actual gift to this world, or thank you for loving me. How often has anybody ever turned to you and said, David, thank you for loving me?
I can't count.
And yet that's the one thing that makes, like that anthropologist was saying, it makes us feel so empty when we're not rewarded for loving someone.
So true.
So if you can just tell someone that loves you, thank you, it blows their mind. I finally met someone who said that to me, and I was like, oh my God, really? They're like, thank you for loving me. Simple.
The chances of us being alive are statistically 400 trillion to 1. The
Especially
chances,
in my life.
the chances that us are sat here, that you're alive to begin with, and I'm sat here in London, a million miles away from your home. The chances that I'm here sitting having this amazing conversation for the listeners of the Development by David podcast is literally zero.
I met a man 4 years ago, and I believed in him. He's lived for 11 years homeless with cancer. Last year, he was going to come here so he and I could finish a documentary together called Why Don't You Just Kill Yourself? Because we both suffered so badly, and someone had the cheek to ask my good friend Alex, why didn't he just kill himself? He went into a coma. He had meningitis, and I thought it was over. And you remember all this because I told you we were coming up there to see him. I got a van to go camping with him, didn't I? And I was so proud of myself. My friend Jimmy Rex in America helped me get the van, and I was going to take Scotland by storm. We're going to go to the... Then he goes into a coma. I kept ringing his phone, didn't understand what happened. And this guy, Ken, answers. I said, who are you, sir? He said, who are you? He said, oh, you're Nick. You're Alex's friend. I said, where's Alex? He said, he's laying here unconscious in the hospital bed. He said, I'm not leaving my friend's side until they let me go or he dies. And I broke down on that. I couldn't believe I'm having this conversation with a total stranger on Alex's phone. And he said, I kept seeing missed calls, but we don't know how to get past his code on the phone. So we don't know how to unlock his call to tell people that he's been in the hospital. But my daughter found him in the middle of the night. And we rushed him to the hospital, and we don't think he's going to make it. With his condition, meningitis should have whipped him out. Instead, meningitis wiped out 26 of the tumors. He wakes up, he can't believe it, and he's got full functioning faculties of his brain. They thought with being in a coma with that kind of infection on top of the years of cancer, he was going to be wiped out. No. So Alex is going strong. He's in New York right now with his friend Caesar, and then he's flying over here on the 7th. And I'm going to go to Scotland, and we're going to finish this movie, David. I made a promise to him based on the conversation we had. I'll set it up thusly. 2 men are standing on the Oregon coast. It's about 10 o'clock at night. There's no street light pollution for miles. The only thing lighting up the surface of the ocean before us, which was in complete stillness, without any ripples, was the beautiful Milky Way above us. It was so bright in illumination, we were able to see the stars of the galaxy on the water's reflection. And he said, wow, I've never seen this. We were just mesmerized that this huge Milky Way itself was there in the water. And not the moon. We didn't have moonlight. This was all from starlight. And he turned to me and he said, I got to tell you something. The only time I ever felt like this, I went to Scotland. He said, I couldn't understand. I'm walking around Scotland and I don't know why, but I felt so alive. And then I went home and out of curiosity, I did a genealogy test and I'm Scottish. I said, well, guess what? I swear to God, boy, if that's all it's going to take to make you feel alive, and since I lost everything and I need to feel alive, what do you say we take a trip to Scotland together one day and we're going to go feel alive while we walk up to a Scottish castle? And he looked at me, he goes, you mean it? I said, give him my word. We shook hands. And now he's on a fucking airplane in 3 days to get here, man. And we're going to finish this deal. And I'm going to make my friend, my son, I call him, alive. We're going to go to Scotland and you're going to look me in the face while I complete this mission with my friend.
I heard that story and that goal 4 years ago on the podcast.
I know.
And
It's
you're
crazy.
here.
And now it's coming true because I didn't give up on my promise to my friend. I told you a strange phenomenon. I got 4 people off of death row by being put to death. Right? I get sentenced to death and I get 4 people out. When I ran out of people to get off of death row, God gave me Alex. And now I have someone else who is defying the odds, living with a rare cancer that no one has ever lived with more than 6 months, and he's bashed it for 10 and a half years. 26 tumors, coma, nothing kills my boy. And he's coming here, and he's going to be at that play. And I am going to introduce the world to Alex. I want to bring him on the morning programs and everything. I really want to show him that he can have my dream. You see, in 2015, The Fear of 13 was released on Netflix.
Your documentary.
That documentary went around the world, and I was world famous. And people knew my story, so much so, I flew on Virgin Airlines with people sitting beside me watching my movie. I was the in-flight entertainment. Yeah? Fascinating. And that's what I want Alex to have in his life. I want his story to be used for every cancer society around the world so that people aren't shocked into feeling that they're going to die because they have cancer. I want to make an effort with Alex's pain, like my pain, to spread good. That's what I'm going to do with him.
And I think as a byproduct, a second order effect, the listeners will be using their pain as their power to do the same.
Yeah.
Not only are you doing that for Alex, not only have you done it for me, but let's encourage others to do the same. Nick Yarris, thanks for joining me in London. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for our friendship. Thank you for everything that you have done for me. From 4 years ago to now, I appreciate you, mate. I love you as a brother. Thank you for everything that you've done.
David, hold your head up because you're doing with Anthony Samandani, a very good friend of mine, doing your honor and your mother and the way you carry yourself. Well done. One of the best things I ever learned as a saying in the United Kingdom is fair play. So I like this one. Good on you and fair play because you're doing what she would have wanted you to do. If there's anybody out there that's been affected by our conversation that has suicidal thoughts, tendencies towards abusing themselves through drugs and alcohol, reach out to David or I. We really sincerely would like to know if we can help you. I especially have a gift of getting people not to kill themselves and getting away from self-abuse. It is my intention to go around the United Kingdom and set up speaking. If you have a platform or a venue that you think might be purposeful for me to come and speak, reach out to me. I really want to spend the next couple of years trying to combat the suicide and self-abuse that's going on in this nation. We have too many wonderful white, brown, black, red, and other colors of human beings that need us all to unify against this one plague that affects us all. No one should be killing themselves at a time when there's so much going on, killing us as it is. Thank you for allowing me to represent my mother, Harriet Jane Yarris. Thank you for letting me come here and show you that you were right to believe in me, and more so, to believe in yourself. I love you too, David, and I think you're a good man who's going to do a lot of good for a lot of people around this planet. You got a lot more years at it than I will. Do it right.